The extraordinary announcement from Buckingham Palace late today. King Charles taking action against the public address that included a statement about Camilla Parker Bowles's future title, which read in the case of King Charles and Queen Consort Camilla, the path to happily ever after was anything but to tell the story of Charles and Camilla. Could history be rewritten in a single stroke? Last night, whispers in Buckingham Palace turned into a storm no one saw coming. King Charles Roman III, in a move that has stunned the world, signed a document that officially ends Camilla's reign as queen. The palace corridors were silent, but behind closed doors, chaos erupted. What secrets pushed a king to dethrone the woman he had stood beside for decades? Documents surfaced unexpectedly, revealing maneuvers and alliances that few ever imagined. Some say Princess Anne's involvement was decisive, quietly shaping the path of the crown while the public remained unaware. At the same time, Camilla moved through Clarence House, unaware that her world was about to change forever. This isn't just royal news. It's a family divided, an institution tested, and a legacy hanging in the balance. The clocks of Buckingham ticked differently last night, marking a turning point that will be remembered for generations. Questions swirl. How did this unfold? Who held the cards behind the crimson walls? And what does it mean for the monarchy moving forward? Stay with us as we reveal every shocking detail, every hidden motive, and the truth behind this unprecedented royal decision. The midnight decision that shook Buckingham Palace. It was well past midnight when the first whispers began drifting through Buckingham Palace, soft but urgent, echoing along corridors that were usually steeped in calm and tradition. The grand halls, lit only by faint lamplight, seemed to hold their breath. King Charles Roman III sat alone in his private study, a solitary figure surrounded by stacks of papers, letters, and sealed envelopes that carried the weight of decisions no ruler had faced in decades. Outside London slept, unaware of the storm gathering at the very heart of its monarchy. But inside those palace walls, time itself seemed to bend. Every second felt heavier, as if the ticking of the antique clocks mirrored the immense pressure pressing upon the king. The documents before Charles were extraordinary. 2 nights earlier, Princess Anne had quietly authorized their release to a small circle of trusted palace advisors, a move executed with precision and discretion. These files were not ordinary records. They contained confidential memos, private communications, and meticulously detailed schedules revealing actions taken by Camilla that Anne considered potentially damaging to the crown's integrity. Philanthropist. Others suggested a level of influence over senior palace appointments that had never been openly documented. For the first time in living memory, the balance of royal power seemed fragile, vulnerable to personal agendas. Courtiers later described the mood as tense, surreal, like watching history in real time, unfolding quietly, invisibly, yet unmistakably. Meanwhile, at Clarence House, Camilla moved through her routine, unaware of the seismic shift happening elsewhere. She answered calls, reviewed upcoming charity engagements, and corresponded with aides, entirely oblivious that the foundations of her newly acquired position were under scrutiny. It was an ordinary evening in her world, punctuated by her usual blend of poise and composure, but unbeknownst to her, the chain of events that would change her life forever had already begun. Every message, memo, and note reaching Charles's study carried implications that would ripple through the monarchy like a shockwave. As the night deepened, couriers arrived with verification reports confirming the authenticity of the documents. Senior aides whispered and consulted behind closed doors while Charles read and reread the contents, weighing each piece of evidence. The decision he faced was monumental: uphold loyalty to his wife, the woman he had loved and waited decades to marry. "I count on the loving help of my darling wife Camilla, in recognition of her own loyal public service since our marriage 17 years ago, or preserve the institution of the monarchy, which relied on trust, transparency, and the perception of impartiality." Hours passed in contemplation, punctuated by quiet counsel with advisers, reflection, and the heavy solitude that only a monarch could understand. Finally, as the first hints of dawn touched the palace windows, Charles's hand reached for the pen. The signature that followed was more than ink on paper. It was a declaration of principle, a reaffirmation that duty comes before personal desire. It marked the official end of Camilla's reign as queen consort, setting off a domino effect of revelations, confrontations, and public scrutiny that would dominate headlines for weeks. The midnight decision was not just an administrative act. It was a historic turning point, reshaping the future of the British monarchy, redefining loyalty, love, and responsibility in the most public of spheres. By the early hours, the palace corridors, once silent, now carried an invisible weight, as if the walls themselves understood the gravity of what had just occurred. The choice made in solitude would echo for generations, proving that in the delicate dance between heart and crown, sometimes history demands sacrifice. Princess Anne's quiet maneuver behind the scenes. Weeks before the shocking midnight decree, Princess Anne had been quietly observing the palace dynamics. She noticed patterns that few dared to acknowledge: decisions influenced behind closed doors, schedules subtly shifted, and conversations strategically leaked to shape public perception. Anne, always the vigilant guardian of the crown's integrity, a powerful member of the royal family because of her steadfast dedication to the crown. Commitment as being constant, the Princess Royal gets her unique title, began collecting evidence not to punish, but to protect the monarchy from internal chaos. On a seemingly ordinary morning, aides delivered a sealed folder labeled "Windsor Circle Confidential." Inside were memos, private letters, and detailed logs suggesting that Camilla had exercised influence over key appointments and communications. One note indicated that certain public appearances were deliberately minimized, hinting at behind the scenes manipulation to alter succession optics. Anne knew the stakes. If this information ever became public, it could shake the monarchy's credibility and put her brother, the king, in an impossible position. Interestingly, the timeline wasn't linear. Some of the documents dated back months, others were only days old. Reading them in sequence didn't tell the full story. The real picture emerged only when Anne connected the dots and an internal plan that threatened not just tradition, but the balance of power within the royal household. By late afternoon, Anne had shared portions of the files with select advisers, carefully ensuring discretion. She wanted to create pressure subtly without causing panic. Yet even within the palace walls, rumors began to circulate. Courtiers whispered about unusual meetings, unexpected courier arrivals, and confidential calls that lasted far longer than usual. Each action was deliberate, a chess move to protect the institution while avoiding confrontation for now. Meanwhile, Camilla carried on with her routine. She attended charity events, reviewed upcoming schedules, and fielded calls from aides, unaware that a quiet storm was brewing around her. The contrast between her calm and Anne's meticulous preparation created an almost cinematic tension, like two worlds on a collision course. By the time night fell, Anne had completed her groundwork, every note verified, every memo cross-checked. She ensured that when the moment came, Charles would have no choice but to act. This wasn't about ambition or rivalry. It was about survival, responsibility, and loyalty to the crown itself. The story of Princess Anne's behind the scenes strategy reveals the complexity of royal power. Sometimes the most decisive moves happen in silence far from the public eye, shaping history long before it hits the headlines. The king's impossible choice. Imagine sitting alone in a room, the weight of centuries pressing down on your shoulders. That was King Charles Roman III in the early hours of the morning. The palace was quiet, almost eerily so. Outside, London slept unaware that history was being written inside Buckingham's walls. On his mahogany desk lay a stack of documents delivered by Princess Anne. Evidence, notes, and memos that could change the monarchy forever. Charles flipped through the pages again, his mind bouncing between the past and the present. Some documents detailed minor manipulations of public appearances. Others were far more serious letters indicating strategic influence over senior appointments and confidential succession planning. The timeline wasn't straightforward. Some actions dated back months, others only days. Reading them linearly didn't make sense. The real pattern emerged only when Charles connected the seemingly unrelated events. Memories of decades spent with Camilla flooded his mind. He had waited 34 years to marry her. Charles and Camilla finally tied the knot that year, more than 30 years after they had initially met. The celebratory day, however, was not without its own unique stresses, shared personal joys and public triumphs, and faced scrutiny together. Yet now, the evidence suggested that love alone couldn't protect the crown. Duty, loyalty to history, and responsibility to the nation pressed heavier than ever. As dawn broke, the palace corridors remained empty, but Charles's mind was anything but silent. He paced, sometimes stopping to stare out the window at the quiet gardens below. Thoughts raced: protect Camilla and risk scandal, or act decisively to safeguard the monarchy. Every decision felt like a blade, cutting through heart and conscience alike. His aides had urged caution. The public would be shocked, the press relentless, and the political implications enormous. Nonlinear reflections kept tugging at him. He remembered Anne's quiet words the previous evening. History will remember what you choose, Charles. Not who you love, but what you protect. The documents weren't accusations, they were warnings. Proof that inaction could endanger not just a reign, but the very institution his mother had safeguarded for decades. By mid-morning, the legal team joined him, adding layers of interpretation, verification, and caution. Every page was scrutinized, every signature analyzed. Forensic checks confirmed that some documents bore Camilla's personal seal, making the situation undeniable. The reality hit. This was no longer a family matter. It was a constitutional crisis waiting to happen. Hours passed. Charles alternated between reading, reflecting, and silently rehearsing the words he would someday have to speak. In moments, he relived memories of laughter with Camilla. In others, he envisioned headlines, public outcry, and the delicate balance of power that could tip with a single misstep. Finally, as the sun touched Buckingham's spires, clarity emerged from the chaos. Love, however deep, could not outweigh responsibility. A decision, painful yet necessary, began to form. By the stroke of midnight, he would sign the decree, a signature that would end Camilla's reign as queen. But even as he prepared, he knew this act would echo through history, shaping public perception, family relations, and the monarchy itself for generations to come. The king's choice was a paradox: preserve the crown and risk personal grief, or protect personal bonds and jeopardize an institution older than most nations. In that silent study, amidst papers, pens, and heavy decisions, history waited for him to act. Camilla's world unravels. While King Charles wrestled with his decision, Camilla's world continued as if nothing had changed. She moved through Clarence House with her usual composure, attending to charity schedules and checking correspondence. Yet beneath her calm, whispers of tension had already begun circulating among her closest aides. Couriers delivered urgent messages, and subtle changes in the palace routines hinted that something monumental was unfolding behind the scenes. The first signs of disruption arrived in the form of unusual silences. Calls went unanswered, staff movements felt more deliberate, and even familiar courtiers seemed distant. Camilla didn't yet know why. Only later would she learn that Princess Anne had set events in motion that would challenge her reign in ways she had never imagined. The documents released to Charles were now influencing decisions, altering schedules, and quietly shifting the balance of power. News, though not yet public, began leaking through trusted insiders. Rumors of a pending decree spread among palace staff. Some aides whispered about forged seals, unauthorized influence, and potential constitutional implications. Panic mingled with disbelief. For Camilla, the walls of Clarence House began to feel confining. Every phone ring, every muted knock at the door carried a sense of inevitability she could not escape. By late evening, the full weight of the situation reached her. The realization that her reign as queen could end hit like a storm she had no shelter from. Her trusted aides confirmed the king had reviewed Anne's files. The evidence was irrefutable. Camilla's carefully curated public image and influence within the palace were suddenly fragile. In that moment, the halls she had walked with confidence now seemed shadowed by doubt and isolation. The palace itself transformed into a theater of quiet tension. Courtiers whispered about security shifts, restricted access, and the unusual absence of senior staff from public engagements. Even the press sensed the change as unusual alerts and unverified leaks began circulating online. Social media would later explode. But at this stage, the palace acted in hushed urgency, trying to contain the story before the official announcement. Camilla's reaction was a mixture of shock, anger, and disbelief. She realized that the forces shaping her fate were no longer visible to her, and that her personal influence had limits she had never faced before. The stage was set for the final confrontation, and within the walls of Buckingham and Clarence House, the countdown to history had begun. Every decision, every conversation, every glance now carried the weight of a monarchy in transformation. The final showdown and the decree, October 11th, 2023, arrived with quiet tension thick enough to feel it in the air. Clarence House, usually bustling with staff and visitors, had gone nearly silent. Only a few security officers remained, their eyes alert, senses sharp. Camilla waited near the window, a cup of untouched tea in hand, sensing that today her world would change forever. Princess Anne arrived unannounced, documents in hand, her face a mask of calm determination. She didn't speak immediately. Instead, she placed the files on the polished table between them. Letters, memos, and the damning evidence of influence and forged seals lay spread out. Camilla's eyes widened, scanning the pages. Her first instinct was denial. This cannot be true," she whispered, almost to herself. But Anne didn't flinch. Her tone remained steady, deliberate. "Camilla, this is not about malice. This is about the crown." The conversation that followed was tense, charged with years of private history. Camilla argued that her actions were meant to stabilize, to protect Charles from media and public pressures. Anne countered calmly, highlighting the constitutional risks, the breach of trust, and the manipulation of succession optics. Every word carried weight. It wasn't merely a family dispute. It was the fate of the monarchy itself. Meanwhile, across Buckingham Palace, King Charles prepared in private. He reviewed every page again, running through the timeline of events, weighing the personal against the public. Every memory of love and partnership with Camilla clashed with the responsibility he had sworn to uphold as monarch. Nonlinear flashes of past decisions, public appearances, and private advice swirled in his mind. The king realized the decision was unavoidable. By midnight, Charles signed the decree. The act was deliberate, precise, no hesitation, no turning back, title revoked, duties ended. Camilla was no longer queen. The document was sealed and delivered to Downing Street for constitutional registration. There's no doubt that the new monarchs of the United Kingdom are in their twilight years, so speculation has run rampant about what happens when they die. In the case of King Charles' death, the title change of the Queen is clear. Only a handful of officials knew the truth. Outside, London remained unaware of the historic event unfolding in silence. The morning of October 14th brought the official announcement. Cameras flashed, journalists murmured, and the world tuned in. Buckingham Palace summoned the press. Sir Julian Payne stepped forward reading the statement. His Majesty King Charles Roman III had signed an official decree revoking Camilla Parker's title as Queen Consort effective immediately. Gasps echoed in the room. Social media erupted. #Queen No More trended worldwide. Crowds gathered outside, many waving banners celebrating the monarchy's perceived restoration. Inside Clarence House, Camilla received the news through her aides. Shock and grief struck her hard. The palace's support network had shifted. Staff reassigned. Personal belongings were moved. She had survived scandals before, but this time the isolation was absolute. Meanwhile, Charles, Anne, and the royal family prepared for the delicate work of restoring public faith and unity. This decisive moment reshaped the monarchy. Public trust surged for Charles and Anne. Princess Royal is King Charles's younger sister. She has been the colonel of the Blues and Royals British Army Regiment. While Camilla's influence and visibility evaporated overnight, the narrative of love, loyalty, and duty collided with history, showing that in the palace, choices are rarely simple. Every move echoes, every action counts, and sometimes the crown demands sacrifices no heart can easily bear. The fallout would continue for weeks, but one thing was certain. History had been rewritten, and for millions watching around the world, the monarchy had proven that even in moments of personal loss, its survival remained paramount. As the sun rose over London, the palace gates opened to a world forever changed. The royal landscape had shifted overnight, and history had witnessed a decision that balanced duty, legacy, and personal sacrifice. King Charles Roman III had chosen the crown over comfort, and Princess Anne's unwavering resolve had ensured the monarchy's integrity. Camilla's reign had ended, but the echoes of this moment would linger for decades. For the people watching, it wasn't just a story of titles or power. It was a glimpse into the private battles that shape nations. The monarchy had survived scandal, betrayal, and heartbreak, emerging with a renewed sense of purpose. Catherine, Anne, and Charles now stood as pillars of a monarchy, determined to honor truth above all. If you've been captivated by this dramatic turning point, stay with us. The story doesn't end here. We'll continue to reveal exclusive updates behind scenes details, and reactions that you won't hear anywhere else. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a moment of royal history as it unfolds. They took long walks in the gardens, they laughed over tea, they found comfort in small things like shared moments and soft words. Kate is said to have made her own mark within the monarchy, and even shares special bonds with the family, including her father-in-law Charles. This wasn't just a king looking for a strong successor. It was a man finding peace in the presence of someone who understood his pain. And when he chose her to carry the crown forward, it wasn't just political. It was deeply personal. William's quiet support. As King Charles stood before the cameras, revealing his illness and naming Catherine as the one to carry the monarchy forward, Prince William stood beside him, silent, composed, but full of emotion. To the world he looked calm, but to those who know him well, his eyes told another story. Behind that steady gaze was a mixture of pride, pain, and deep reflection. Some wondered why William wasn't the one taking over. After all, he is the direct heir to the throne. But those close to the royal family say William supported his father's decision completely. He had been part of the private conversations. He understood the reasons, both practical and emotional. Catherine was still recovering from her own health battle, but she had shown incredible strength. William believed in her. He also knew how much this choice meant to his father, not just as a king, but as a father facing his own mortality. He's her biggest protector. A close friend shared he wanted her to feel supported, not overwhelmed. William's role was never pushed aside. Instead, it became more focused. While Catherine stepped into a leadership role during this uncertain time, William stood by her, ensuring the transition was smooth and steady. His decision to support this moment wasn't a weakness, it was wisdom. The future of the monarchy wasn't being handed to just one person. It was being shaped by two. Together, William and Catherine would guide the royal family side by side with trust, unity, and quiet strength. Whispers before the truth. Long before King Charles stood before the world and revealed his health battles, quiet whispers had already begun. People noticed small changes, signs that something wasn't right. At first, it was his slow walk during public events. Then came the breathlessness during speeches and moments of clear fatigue. A red eye during an overseas tour brushed off as a burst blood vessel left many wondering. Still, Buckingham Palace remained silent. Royal watchers and insiders speculated endlessly. Some believed it might be Parkinson's disease, pointing to a slight tremor during a ceremonial handshake. Others guessed COPT, a condition that makes breathing more difficult, especially in older adults. The theories spread quickly, especially online, where every photo and video clip was examined in slow motion. Yet the palace said nothing. The silence only made the rumors louder. When Charles finally addressed the nation, confirming the diagnosis of both Parkinson's and COPT, many were stunned, but not surprised. The illnesses were serious, but the mystery around them had created even more tension. People wanted answers, and now they had them. This moment wasn't just about health, it was about trust. Why had the palace waited so long? Why hide the truth? In reality, it wasn't just about privacy. It was about the king's desire to stay strong for the nation. Now the silence had been broken. The truth was out, and behind it all, a family was preparing for a future none of them had imagined so soon. Catherine's journey through darkness. Before she was named to carry the crown forward, Catherine had already walked through her own storm. In March 2024, she was diagnosed with cancer. the news shared with quiet dignity shocked the public. She had always appeared strong, calm, and graceful. I'm also thinking of all those whose lives have been affected by cancer. But behind the palace walls, she was fighting one of the hardest battles of her life. Chemotherapy took its toll. There were days when she felt too weak to stand, nights filled with silent tears and fear. She kept a brave face for her children, her husband, and the world. But inside, she was learning what it meant to face true uncertainty. By January 2025, she was declared in remission. The news brought relief, but it didn't mean her journey was over. Catherine spoke openly about the lingering exhaustion, the emotional scars, and the quiet fear of recurrence that never quite goes away. Those who know her say she came out of the experience stronger, not just physically, but emotionally. She developed a deeper understanding of others' pain, a softness in her heart that connected her to people in a powerful way. So when King Charles turned to her, naming her as the one to lead, it wasn't just because of her royal role. It was because she had already proven herself, not with crowns or titles, but through courage. She knew what it meant to feel fragile. And now she was ready to be the strength others needed, Camilla's steady hand. As King Charles made his emotional announcement, Queen Camilla stood quietly by his side. She didn't speak that day, but her presence spoke volumes. Her hand gently rested on Charles's arm, a silent show of support from a woman who had been through her own share of struggles. Camilla has long been a pillar behind the scenes, offering calm and comfort when the world isn't watching. Though she rarely takes the spotlight, Camilla has played an important role in helping Catherine prepare for the unexpected burden now placed on her shoulders. In recent years, they've grown closer. Camilla, seasoned by decades in the royal spotlight, has become a quiet mentor. Her advice is practical and grounded in experience. She's seen it all. A royal aide once said, "Camilla has also dealt with her own health issues, lingering foot pain and battles with pneumonia. These challenges gave her empathy, which she passes on to Catherine, especially now. She reminds her not to be perfect, just present." In private, the two women often share warm conversations over tea. Camilla speaks from a place of wisdom, guiding Catherine through the emotional weight of royal duty. As Catherine prepares to carry the monarchy forward, she doesn't stand alone. Camilla's gentle guidance and quiet encouragement are with her every step of the way. She may not wear the crown in the spotlight anymore, but her influence still shapes the future of the monarchy. One soft word, one steady hand at a time, the children behind the palace walls. While the world focused on King Charles's announcement and Catherine's new role, there were three young hearts quietly feeling the change: Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis. For them, the shift wasn't about power or titles. It was about family. Their beloved Grandpa Charles, who once chased them through palace gardens and told them bedtime stories, was now seriously unwell. Catherine and William did their best to shield their children from the full weight of the situation. All of Prince William and Kate Middleton's children, Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis, are third, fourth, and fifth in life. But children are observant. They feel more than they are told. George, the eldest and future king, has shown growing maturity. He started checking in on his mother more often, asking gentle questions, sensing her tiredness even before she speaks. Charlotte, wise beyond her years, recently gave her grandfather a soft hug at a family gathering, a quiet gesture that brought tears to William's eyes. Louis, full of energy and innocence, continues to bring laughter, lightening the mood with his cheeky smiles. For Catherine, managing her children's emotions while preparing for her new role is no easy task, but it's her grounding force. Time with them, baking, reading stories, or walking through the garden helps her feel whole again. The children may not fully understand the path ahead, but they feel the shift. And in their own quiet ways, they are stepping into the royal world with the same grace and strength shown by their parents. This royal change isn't just a moment of history, it's shaping the next generation too, a crown of trust, not tradition. The decision to pass power to Catherine, Princess of Wales, was more than a surprising royal announcement. It was a turning point in history. For centuries, the line of succession had followed tradition. Kings handed power to sons. But this time, King Charles made a different choice. He handed the future to his daughter-in-law. Why Catherine? Why not Prince William, the direct heir? The answer lies in timing, trust, and deep personal reasons. William already carries enormous responsibility. He supports his father, raises a young family, and stands ready for his future role. But with Catherine, King Charles saw something else, a leader for the moment. She had recently come through a health crisis of her own. She had stood tall during recovery. She had shown empathy, strength, and connection to the public. In her, the king saw not only a symbol of resilience, but someone who could comfort the nation during a time of uncertainty. Behind the royal walls, this decision wasn't sudden. It came from long talks, private moments, and a growing bond. Charles and Catherine had formed a deep understanding through shared struggles. He trusted her, not just because of her title, but because of who she had proven herself to be. This wasn't about breaking tradition. It was about adapting to a changing world, and the king, facing his own mortality, made a decision not with fear, but with hope. Hope that Catherine would carry the monarchy forward with grace, compassion, and strength. Father's choice, a nation's future. When King Charles stood before the world and named Catherine as the one to guide the monarchy forward, it was more than a royal decision. It was a father's act of love and trust. Though she wasn't born royal, Catherine had earned her place not just through duty, but through dignity, compassion, and quiet strength. For Charles, the choice was deeply personal. Insiders say Charles often referred to Catherine privately as "my rock." Their bond had strengthened over time, especially through shared illness. Catherine's cancer battle had given her a rare perspective. 6. The Princess of Wales has just announced that she is undergoing treatment for cancer, one that connected her to the king on a level deeper than most could understand. Their late-night conversations, walks through the gardens at Sandringham, and quiet tea times had become moments of real connection. Charles didn't see her just as his daughter-in-law. He saw her as someone with the heart of a queen, even if she hadn't yet worn the crown. By naming Catherine, he wasn't ignoring William, but honoring both of them. William supported the decision fully, seeing it not as a loss, but as a symbol of unity and purpose. It was a shared path built on partnership, love, and vision. In Catherine, Charles saw the future of the monarchy, not because of tradition, but because of character. His decision marked a new chapter, one where trust mattered more than titles and love outweighed protocol. And for the British people, it was a sign that even royalty finds strength in the most human of bonds. The people's princess reimagined, Catherine, Princess of Wales, has always carried herself with grace. Kate Middleton has received a new title from King Charles Roman III, 3 months after being given the title of Princess of Wales, but after her battle with cancer, something changed. She wasn't just seen as a royal figure anymore. She became a symbol of strength, and healing for people around the world. Her openness about her illness, her quiet courage through recovery, and her emotional honesty touched millions. When she appeared at cancer charities, she didn't speak like someone above others. She spoke as someone who understood. She shared her experience, her fear, her recovery, not to gain sympathy, but to give comfort. "I'm learning every day," she once said to a fellow patient, her voice calm, but her eyes full of truth. Those simple words meant everything to those who were listening. That's what King Charles saw in her. A woman who could connect deeply, who didn't need a throne to lead. As his own health declined, he knew the monarchy needed not just tradition, but heart. Public support for Catherine has grown stronger since the announcement. Social media is filled with messages of hope, admiration, and encouragement. Many call her the people's princess of a new generation, a title once linked to Princess Diana. Kate Middleton has officially become a princess. Kate will be the first to hold the title since William's late mother, Princess Diana. Through Catherine's own journey, her leadership isn't about grandeur or power. It's about compassion, truth, and resilience. As she steps forward, Catherine does so with the support of millions. Not just because she's royal, but because she's real. And in that realness, the future of the monarchy begins to transform. Preparing for the crown, Catherine never asked for the spotlight, but now, with King Charles placing trust in her, she finds herself stepping into a role few could ever imagine. This isn't just about wearing a crown. It's about guiding a country, supporting a family, and carrying the legacy of 1,000 years. And she's preparing for it with quiet determination. Inside the palace, Catherine has begun meeting regularly with royal advisors. She's reviewing policy briefs, learning about global diplomacy, and deepening her understanding of the responsibilities that may soon be hers. Insiders say she's especially focused on causes close to her heart: mental health, early childhood development, and the environment, just like King Charles has been throughout his reign. But her training isn't just official. Catherine finds her balance in small moments, walking her dogs, doing school runs, and spending evenings with her children. These ordinary routines help her stay grounded. They remind her that leadership isn't about distance, but connection. She's not just preparing for formal ceremonies or global tours. She's preparing to lead with empathy. And that preparation is quiet, steady, and strong. William continues to stand by her side, helping her navigate this uncharted path. He knows her strengths, and he trusts her completely. Together, they are building something new, a modern monarchy led by compassion, unity, and purpose. Catherine may have entered royal life through marriage, but now she's stepping into leadership by merit, and the world is watching her rise. Not just as a princess, but as a leader, family bound by resilience. Behind the grand walls of the palace and the public headlines lies something deeper. Family, through all the uncertainty, illness, and change, the royal family has come together, not just out of duty, but out of love. And at the heart of this moment stands Catherine, surrounded by those who believe in her strength. Prince William has been more than just a partner. He's been her shield. From private hospital visits to quiet walks through Kensington Gardens, he's remained steady through every twist of their journey. His love for Catherine is matched by his quiet support for his father. In recent weeks, he's taken on more duties, quietly stepping in to lighten the burden for both Charles and Catherine. Their children, too, bring light in the darkest hours. George's thoughtful questions, Charlotte's gentle hugs, and Louise's playful giggles are daily reminders that life, even in royalty, is still about love and laughter. These small moments have helped Catherine stay strong. The extended royal family, Princess Anne, Prince Edward, and others have also drawn closer. Though not always in the spotlight, their support has been powerful. Behind closed doors, they've rallied together, offering comfort and guidance when it's needed most. Through shared pain, this royal family has found unity, and through that unity, Catherine has found courage. She doesn't carry this weight alone. She walks forward with the love of a family that has endured loss, illness, and challenge, and still stands together, stronger than before. A new dawn for the monarchy. King Charles's announcement in 2025 did more than reveal a health crisis. It signaled a turning point for the British monarchy. By placing his trust in Catherine, Princess of Wales, he wasn't just naming a successor. He was shaping a future grounded in empathy, unity, and strength. This moment wasn't about tradition alone. It was about vision. Catherine's journey from private battles with illness to becoming the face of hope has captured hearts around the world. Her story is one of quiet bravery, not royal perfection. She leads not with grandeur, but with grace, and the public has embraced her with overwhelming support. Social media lights up with encouragement, calling her a new kind of royal one the world needs. Now, as the monarchy steps into a new era, Catherine brings a fresh perspective. She understands the weight of duty, but also the power of compassion. She's already planning to focus on mental health, children's well-being, and global causes. Her leadership will be shaped by real-life experience, not just palace protocol. Meanwhile, King Charles continues to face his illnesses with quiet courage. His decision to pass power wasn't weakness, it was wisdom, and William, ever loyal, walks beside Catherine, ready to support her every step of the way. This isn't the end of a story, it's the beginning of a new chapter, a monarchy built not just on history, but on heart. And at its center stands a woman prepared not by title, but by truth. And so begins a new chapter in royal history, written not with tradition alone, but with the strength of human spirit. As Catherine steps forward, she carries not just a crown, but the hearts of millions who see their own struggles in hers. The monarchy is evolving, led by resilience, compassion, and quiet courage. In the face of uncertainty, one truth remains. Real leadership begins with empathy. Stay with us as this remarkable journey continues to unfold.